Ford performance in the last couple years of what we're bringing today at Furman Ford, the 2022 Ford Edge ST in the new forged green. New for this year on the entry-level SE adds a black appearance package which adds black elements to the exterior. The smaller Turbo 4 gets the ST line that was new for last year. Inside, we have the large infotainment screen with the latest Sync 4 leather and suede mixed with room for 5. The rivals like your Jeep Grand Cherokee, your Hyundai Palisade, your Mazda CX-5, but do they have the sporty styling that's going to be in the interior and then boost on the exterior with the performance behind it? Great MPGs, room for 5 to fit without any issues, and better cargo. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and I'm going to go over all the specs and details starting now. The new Ford Edge ST definitely looks the game of performance, starting with the glossed out grille with the honeycomb design, and it brushes into the lower air vent that goes into your fog lamp assembly. Everything in the front just looks a little bit more sporty. Adaptive LED headlamps, daytime runnings, ground clearance at 8 inches. It's not going to be the best, but for a performance vehicle that gets a 0 to 60 under 6 seconds, that's awesome. That air vent is going to brush over these 20-inch 5-spoke with the black gloss inserts. Matte black is going to run on the lower skirts, and it's going to push out a bit towards the rear. It's going to finish that in the back with your rectangle exhaust outlets. That's just going to stress more of that performance line. The Edge will be the smallest in the competition, but what I do like about the fascia is they keep the gloss black even on the lower part to just make it look more aggressive. The front disc reading at 13.6 inches, it's ventilated. The rear at 12.4. You got a McPherson strut front suspension and multi-link rear suspension. This is also going to be the smallest in length by nearly 5 inches when we're comparing it to the Grand Cherokee, with the length at 188.8 inches, a wheelbase at 112.2 inches. You're going to receive some matte black over the window housing, and I like the color combo because it really looks nice in the atmosphere that we're at, and it does stress some performance because on the lower door panel you could see how it just flares out, giving more of a bulged look, and it goes into the lower roof spoiler. The matte black is on the lower, the gloss is going to be surrounding the window with your LED brake lights. Towing is not going to be the best. You're going to get about 1,000 pounds, which is going to be the least, but at the end, I mean, it's a performance vehicle, and they back the performance with cargo space. It's actually the best in class, starting at 39.2 cubic feet. You have storage tray on the side. You have a 12-volt, your spare tire tucked underneath. The rear bench split folds at a 40-60 split. That's going to max the cargo to 73.4 cubic feet, but this is a twin turbo V6. We got to go inside, start it up so we can hear that exhaust note. The note that you get out of the Edge is going to give us something to remember because the last year of production will be set for 2023. So realistically, is it better to get this or wait for the last year? When you got the ST, they back the performance with a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6 EcoBoost engine producing 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. That's paired to a 7-speed automatic transmission, achieving 19 to 25 mpgs. 0 to 60, 5.7 seconds. Quarter mile, 14.3 seconds. Top speed, 130 miles per hour. This is the fastest in its class. A curb weight at 4,124 pounds, which is the lightest in weight when we're comparing it to the rivals. So going back to that question, better to wait, better to get this. You still got the performance to back it. The last year, probably not going to see too many differences, especially with that performance tuned engine. I mean, this is definitely going to be better than the Jeep, the Mazda, and the Palisade if you're looking for the performance and for the room in the interior, which you're about to see. Let me know in the comments what you think about the 2022 Ford Edge ST as we go into the interior, go over the tech, and take this for our test run. Entering inside the Ford Edge ST, going to receive 40.2 inches of headroom, 42.6 inches of legroom. This is an ebony leather with suede inserts. It's perforated. We have the ST badging. We got the contrast stitching, 10-way power adjustment for the driver, 6-way power adjustment for the passenger, heated and ventilated. So I do like that. Kind of wish, because the price point that we're at, we're in the 50 grand margin, that it had at least 12-way power adjustment or 10-way on the passenger. And I'm not trying to be too picky. It's just, when you are looking at the competition, you want to be right on there. The dash is going to be long and more performance driven because the way the hood flares upwards on both of the sides. It's going to divide into two parts, and the center cluster will be a 12-inch vertical touchscreen with navigation. So I do like that it's a large screen. Where it's set, because I've been driving it for a little bit, I kind of get used to it. But you know, it does have the pinch. Does have the swipe. Let's click onto those center buttons on the top. This has your dual climate control settings. When you click onto the lower, it will pull it up so that way you can engage it the way you like. Click those dots on the top center so you can see all the apps in which we have: Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, HD radio, AM, FM, Wi-Fi, hotspot, streaming, Bluetooth audio. The latest Sync 4 system. When you click into the car, we'll just kind of go through all these so you can just see what it is. Different setups. You will receive your updates over the air, which is a nice little touch. Put it into reverse. You do have trajectory. I don't like that it's a smaller screen. I do like that you could zoom in for the tow line and that you have the sensor functionality all over the vehicle. It just would be nice to cover the whole screen, because that's why we get the updated screens this big. The air vents are going to get the silver all around them, more of a matte finish to them, so it's going to be more of a settled look. And it brushes into the door panels. You got the B&O upgraded sound system. It's a 12 speaker. Gonna have the contrast stitching, soft where you rest your elbows, one touch up and down, more contrast stitching. In the door pocket, you can fit a lot of goodies. This actually has the best in class for storage in the door pockets as well. Working in the center, you have a 2-tier storage, one that's a pass-through for both the passenger and driver, and then you got the other one, which are wireless charging pads, 2 USBs. Your 12 volt is only going to be on the passenger side, which makes sense if you want to put a radar detector. It's not necessarily track-driven type performance, but still, you could probably go pretty quick. Continuing to work, we're going to get the aluminum inlays with the rotary knob to put it into gear, and that sport mode right there. Cup holders, a 16.9 ounce fits without any issues. I would say maybe a 32 ounce, and you got a pocket for a large phone and another pocket for another phone. Where you rest your elbows, it's going to be pretty soft. Open up inside to a little storage tier that you can pick up, and it's a really deep storage. So yet again, you have the amenities that you need. A leather wrap steering wheel that's performance driven. That's what that ST badge stands for. Perforated on the side, soft on the top. It's heated, multi-function. You got the silver. We have the paddle shifters. Gauge cluster, you can change the way you want it to look on both the right and the left. So I do like that you can put the navigation, you can show your RPMs. You don't have to show the RPMs, you can show the turbos. So they do a great job in the sense of giving you the performance styling that you want. We have the large panoramic Vista roof. It goes all the way to the back seats. Let's see how I look back there. For the back seats, I'm at 42.6 inches of headroom, 40.6 of leg. It's the best in class leg room, comparing it to those longer SUVs. And this is performance driven. Another nice thing about the back is the way you sit, you can also recline it. Now, reclining it is not going to be as desirable as some of the rivals because it kind of has a bit of a bolstering for your lower back. But if you sit this way, it's actually pretty comfortable. Elbows, nice and soft. Cup holders, 20 ounce should fit without any issues. The center, you're gonna get your air vents. You're gonna get heated seats in the back, a 12 volt, 2 USB port storage behind both of the front seats. For the door panels, you're gonna get the same as the front, the contrast stitching, one touch up and down, soft where you rest your elbows, and a large storage pocket that you can fit probably two 16.9 ounce water bottles. So again, the amount of space that you have for your leg in the cargo, they do an excellent job. The pano comes all the way behind me so I can utilize it. It's not so wide, it's just very long. So I wish that it would come over maybe about half more on both sides, so that way it would be a little bit more airy, but I still like the feel of what I'm sitting with. Let's see how I look in the center. In the center, headroom is absolutely no issues. I mean, look at that, it's crazy. Leg space, the same. I have plenty of leg space. I am sharing feet because the floor isn't completely flat, but shoulder space because the seats don't flare out so much. But for the most part, it's actually just as comfortable in the center as the side, where you're not gonna get that same feel in the competition. On the flip side, the disadvantage that we have is the door panels are a bit lower in this vehicle, so you feel like you're sitting higher, especially in the back seat, because usually, in most cases, you are sitting higher, and the same thing in this one, you are. So because of that, it's taking a little bit of that sportness away, and the dash layout from the back seat doesn't look as sporty as it does in the front. It looks a little bit more plain. Taking the 2022 Ford Edge ST out for our test run, 2.7 liter EcoBoost twin turbo, 335 horsepower, backed with 380 pound-feet of torque, 7-speed automatic transmission, 0 to 60 around 5.7 seconds. Quarter mile under 15 seconds. Crazy numbers is what you're getting. The gas consumption isn't too bad, but when you go into V6, obviously it's going to drink more than the 4-cylinder turbo, which you can get the ST line, but you're getting the brakes, the suspension, and the performance with this. So you do have to take all those numbers and characteristics in perspective, because this is going to be a lot faster. It's over a second quicker than the Turbo 4, just to throw that out. The front is going to be super aggressive. As I've been driving, the front windscreen does brush downwards into these big humps on the hood, which I do like that because it makes me feel very performance driven. We're going to push that little S button right there so we can play with this 7-speed and see how it is when we come here like this, stop in the middle of the road, give her some go. She moves good. Stays very quiet. Fords do a great job in the sound deadening, but they do such a good job. I barely heard the exhaust note, and I actually want to hear the exhaust note because this is an ST. It's kind of crazy that you can only hear it when you hit high RPMs. The brakes, they grab really good. Turn radius and more or less a stop point. About 2 lanes. Let's rock and roll, guys. I mean, it's good for an everyday vehicle that has some fun behind it. I will say, comparing this to the rivals, when I push the gas pedal, it is ready to engage, especially when you're at a higher RPM note. If you lower it to, say, a 1500 RPM, now try to push it, you have a little bit of hesitation, but that's gonna happen because this is the EcoBoost twin turbo engine. That's a lot of power underneath that small little thing. So it does a good job at what it's supposed to do. Drive it just normal, let it change the gears by itself, and you forget that you have a performance-driven vehicle. So that is a good thing if you're looking for an all-round performance / everyday vehicle. Hauling things around, you're not gonna have too much of an issue unless you need a tow. Cargo Palisade is actually a little bit larger in the cargo space, but the reason why I say this is better is because this is the smallest in length. So if it was just as large as the Hyundai Palisade, this would probably be better because they really optimize storage space all over. So I think Ford really did nail it. Because this is the last couple of years of production, it's gonna be a little sad to, see it go, but I mean, listen. it's just fun that you still have some performance. Now there is 3 things I like and 3 things that I dislike, because I would be buying this vehicle otherwise. And I say this all the time, I am aggressively looking to buy a vehicle, and yet it is impossible. The 3 things that I like about this particular vehicle though is that you have the best of both worlds. You have performance, you have a daily driver as well. Gas consumption can be okay if you drive it okay, but because it's twin turbo, you do want to give it some gas, because otherwise you're going to build up a lot of carbon inside that engine. The second thing that I like about it, this is the best in class for leg room, for storage pockets. The amenities actually make it a vehicle that you're not going to look at how many miles you drive on this vehicle. And when you get performance cars, typically you're like, I don't want to hit 5,000 miles. I don't want to hit 10,000 miles. Like, you actually bite your fingers sometimes saying, I don't want to drive, let's drive the everyday vehicle. This is the everyday vehicle. The second thing that I like about the vehicle is how safe it is. When you go onto the lines, it's going to push you in. You got the adaptive cruise control, you have the lane keep assist, you have the backup collision. This is, again, in performance, and on top of that, 8 inches of clearance, 0 to 60 under 6 seconds. I mean, we'll just all put it in one bracket. 3 things that I dislike about the vehicle. It is getting a little bit of age in the interior. The dashboard is a little bland and not necessarily something that screams performance. And it works, but the redesign was scheduled for next year, and unfortunately, because this is going to be discontinued, not much that you can do. Let's get her back up onto the highway so we can see that performance. Hopefully, if this Nissan Kicks gives it a little go, we're obviously going to be faster than the Nissan Kick, so this is going to be a little tough. But you'll be able to see, hopefully, some maneuverability. Well, not really. So we're going to get back off here and cut off because we got up to speed. There's really not much you can do. The second thing that I dislike about the vehicle is it's so quiet, it takes away from the essence of the Ford performance. And they do that even with the Raptor. They make it like you get some power and performance, and don't get me wrong, and it's nice, pushes you back, you feel it, great. I can't hear it though. And I want to hear the performance. That's why I'm paying over 50 grand for this car. Yes, I added some features so that way I am taken care of. I got the large pano, but still, come on. Has to go with the bolstering in the seats. I like a sports seat, don't get me wrong, but I also like to be able to move it to make it a more luxury seat for a longer journey. I could see where you're gonna get a little tired because they're not necessarily the longest for your legs, and the way they cocoon you is very tight and snug, which again is great for short commutes, but sometimes when you go on a longer commute, you wanna be able to kind of move, and you don't have that much freedom with these seats. Turn signal isn't necessarily the most pleasing, but this is. That way you can see that maneuverability. And you can get in and out of lanes because it's not the longest vehicle, 188 inches roughly, so it is pretty good in the sense of a small to mid-size SUV frame. And I mean, it's comfortable though. The seats, like I said, it could get a little uncomfortable, but for the most part, on a daily commute, even on a long journey, I mean, I guess I would just rotate into the back seats and just relax, use the recline a little bit. But it's super quiet. AC blows very good. The touchscreen is going to be a little bit more of a job for you to learn when you purchase this vehicle. It may take you a little bit of time because obviously I review a lot of vehicles, so it's easy for me to do the setups and go through everything for a tutorial. But for somebody that never has done this is a lot in one, and the fact that everything is connected to this gives me the indication that they may start charging premiums for some of the updates or for some of the things that you actually have in the infotainment screen. So I don't like that. I do actually like some knobs, which the only knobs that you got is to turn on the stereo or to put it into gear. So comparing it to the rivals, I think the Jeep Grand Cherokee setup is going to look the best for the dash. This one, because they're not going to redo it, it's coming to a conclusion. It is good, it's just it was due for a redesign. Comparing it to the Mazda CX-5 or the Hyundai Palisade, the Palisade is a bit long when you're comparing it to this, and it's hard to say that you can't compare it to this, but still I would probably go for this one if I'm looking for an SUV that doesn't have or need a third row, because If you're gonna go that route, you can go to the Jeep Grand Cherokee L, and it's substantially longer, so it'll give you some length at least for your leg space, because that's gonna be a little bit cramped, but for a smaller third row, great vehicle. Comparing it to the Mazda CX-5, that one's gonna be more luxury. You're going to have some performance behind it because it's a turbocharged, but when you get up to the interstate with this one, it doesn't die as much as the CX-5, because what happens with that one, that single turbo, it's good for the quick 0 to 60, but it's not so good for getting up onto the interstate, and that becomes a problem whenever you're driving a vehicle, because you're not going to be able to pass anybody, and then your maneuverability is just thrown out the door. Everyday use, performance, value, you're getting it in the Ford Edge ST. Kind of sad to see it go. I'd like to thank Furman Ford for giving us this 2022 Ford Edge ST for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, click the next video, the subscribe button. Check out the details, the merchandise, the website, and everything we do here at Hawkeye Rides.